Yo guys, Coach Theo here, Uncommon Sense. Today I'm gonna give you my complete guide to six-pack abs. So I'm gonna tell you the most important exercises, the best exercises in my opinion to directly target and develop the abs, but also other factors that play in, and especially little training tidbits and factors that you might not have thought about otherwise. But before we get into it, I want to ask you to already now like and comment for the sake of the algorithm to support me and the channel. And please consider becoming a member of the channel or otherwise supporting the channel. You have some options in the description below, but you can let me know in the comments if you like these kinds of videos. We're going to be mixing inspired monologue rants about just self-development, stop being a little bitch, become the best you, in general, that kind of thing, with more like directly like training philosophy, training style, direct training advice and fasting and weight loss advice like that, and other stuff, philosophical topics, whatever. But please let me know. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get to the exercises and like how we program your training at the end and start off by kind of talking about everything else related. So the first thing I want to get out of the way that you probably know or have heard about is this thing about abs being made in the kitchen. And it's true that no matter how well developed big muscle bellies you have in the ab section, they're never going to show if they're covered by a big layer of fat. And most people, we're talking visible abs, and that's like the only goal. Most people would only need to get down to a certain level of body fat for their abs to show. But there are exceptions, like really skinny guys that just don't carry much muscle mass all over. A guy like that might even, at low body fat, just have a flat stomach, but not really abs, because the muscles below there are still, when there's not so much fat, they're just not big enough to pop. And of course, this could be the case for some women as well. So, absolutely, low body fat, important for very chiseled abs like that. And yeah, they're going to look best at low body fat. They're never going to show with too much body fat, but some people might even have to train them a bit more to get them to show properly. But we're going to get into here too that while body fat matters, by training your abs like any other muscle and growing them, they're going to look better, more defined when lean, but they're also going to stick around longer if you put on some fat, if you go on a bulk, for instance. So yes, next thing we want to talk about is genetics. Okay, so we have to realize that we might have an image of what we think like a good six-pack or well-developed abs should look like. I get a lot of compliments for my abs, but the funny thing is as a teenager, which is the only time where I tried to, before I started at 25, now 5 years I've been training. In the teens, I had some ambitions that I lost when I when I just went darker and darker into the hole of depression, anxiety, and poor habits and all that. But the point is, looking back, I really had pretty good abs. I need to dig up some old pictures. But because I had this mental image like an 8-pack, that's what abs are like. Because I didn't have that, I felt like I didn't have abs. But what I have going for me that people comment is the top section is really like big and chunky. Might come from the fact that I also did just a shit ton of crunches as a teenager. That was like the exercise I did the most. But because I have stubborn low body fat, so when I really lean and I flex, you could say I have a 6-pack, but I never really get the full 8-pack. And so that is something that has bothered me. But from someone else's standpoint, I have like these big chunky abs and they think it looks good. So you see what I mean is that we can't expect to get, if we see someone, their abs, the way they look, that's just perfect, I want that. You can't necessarily always get that, but if you get down to a low enough body fat percentage and just develop your abs, they're gonna look good in their own way, but we're just gonna kind of have to accept that there is a genetic factor. Not only, by the way, with how the muscle bellies are like structured, just the look of your abs like that, but also in what order you store body fat. Someone might just, in the order they lose their body fat, their abs might pop a bit more, even when they're not all over super lean, and for someone else, the belly fat might be the more stubborn one. We have to know what we're working with and accept that. And then if we just embrace, this is me, I'm becoming my best, you're gonna get good looking abs. But okay, before we get into like the actual direct core work, I want to, the core, the abs, it's right there in the middle. So by training our full body and developing good strength and muscle mass in our entire body, that's going to help the aesthetics and strengths of our abs as well, for two reasons. Like, if you think of it like this, when you just get more muscle mass all over, the muscle mass is located, well, beneath the skin, obviously, but beneath the body fat as well. So it's just going to be pressing out more against the fat and the skin when you have more muscle mass. So, like, even gaining more muscle mass on your entire frame will, like, let's say my abs don't really show right now, and I put on a bunch of muscle on my chest as well and on my back. Now, like, around me, it's gonna be pressing out more. It's actually gonna help my abs to show more, just having more muscle mass on my entire body. But the other factor, of course, is that the core is right there in the middle of the body. We're gonna use it a lot when we train other exercises, indirect ab work. So you can get a lot of ab and core development from indirect work as well. But some people say that, oh, you don't need to train abs, just the big compounds will just hit them. It's not necessarily true. Like take a deadlift or a shoulder press, definitely engaging the core, but it's more the deeper muscles, not directly the abs necessarily. So why that's helpful, it's not that if you just do powerlifting, you're just gonna get great abs, not necessarily. But when you do variations, especially when you do like unilateral exercises, especially the sides, the obliques, of course, you're gonna engage because you hold a weight in the right hand, you're gonna have to counter with the left side and that. And certain variations of compound exercises will hit the abs more. So especially exercises when the center of gravity is further in front, and especially like hip hinges and squat variations, like a front squat. I actually get sore in my abs from doing front squats only sometimes. We're doing safety squat bar squats with the side things pointing forward. It becomes kind of the same thing like a squat. I get sore. I just picked them up. I get sore from doing that. Searcher stuff that I've done quite a bit too, like searcher squats, searcher Jefferson curls and that. It's also going to engage more of the abs like that. So you see, your full body, developing your full body, it both plays into it that just more muscle mass on your entire frame will help make the abs more visible as well, but also training your entire body in a well-rounded way, you're gonna target and develop the abs to some extent. So we're gonna come to actually training it directly, but I want to tell you like just a little bit about how I've done it. Like as a teenager, I mentioned, I did a shit ton of crunches, and then I don't really train until I start this. At the start of this 5-year journey now, I did some direct core work, like these short ab circuits, and like a year in, like after pausing that kind of quickly, I actually did some structured ab work, approaching abs kind of like how I'd approach any other muscles, but I just did it for a few months, and I've not really been training my abs directly for the majority of this time. And if you go look back, I have good abs all the time. So my point is, well, it's just proof of what I'm just saying, kind of. Like, okay, a genetic factor a bit, but they have gotten, like, my abs have actually gotten better while I haven't really trained them directly. But now, lately, I've been wanting to train them, because I'm going to tie in my personal experience with this to how you program it. I've been wanting that to just, I see that I'm leaving some gains on the table. I can get even more abs. And of course, just making my core stronger will carry over to other things. But it is for aesthetic reasons as well. Making the abs, like my abs are still well developed enough, and my entire frame, that I will have abs pretty far into a bulk, but I want them to be even more, more defined even as I go on a bulk and put on muscle. But so I did here, but when I've been in a sort of a main gaining phase, not really cutting, not really bulking, just kind of eating at maintenance and maintaining strength on big exercises, but addressing some weak points where I can actually make some gains even when I'm not pure bulking like that. And so I've had these like weak point days when I train abs and neck and calves, stuff like that. And okay, so let's get into, before I talk about programming, the actual 3 exercises I think you need. It's more like templates. I'm going to tell you the exact ones I've been doing and then discuss a little bit like alternatives. But you want, so the entire abs, the 8-pack, the 6-pack, whatever you want, if some kind of crunching movement, either from top down is happening or from the bottom up, like you're lifting your legs somehow, like the entire abs is going to be activated, but a top-down movement will target the upper part more, and a bottom-up movement will target the lower part more. So you could have one technically, but if you want to like hit the entire area as much, you should have one top-down movement and one bottom-up movement, and then we want something for the sides, which will be either some kind of bending motion or some kind of rotational motion. Yeah, because the obliques, they laterally flex the trunk and rotate. So what I've been doing now is, I hope I have good clips for this. I've just been messing with some memory cards. I hope it's accessible to me. But a good stretch on the muscle is always good for development. A lot of people don't know this, but the abs, often when we crunch, we do it from kind of a flat place into a flexed position. We never get that full stretch. It's not to say that you can't develop your abs without the full stretch, but it's just a great, an exercise that you can get a good stretch on the muscle with is always great for hypertrophy. So I've been using this like bench when I can actually lean back and like it's rounded, so I can actually stretch out my abs at the bottom and then I hold a weight, you know. And now I get a full stretch, a good stretch, but now using weight, I can approach it more as any other exercise, because, you know, so many ab exercises, just body weight, just do a bunch of, you know, fast-paced, it's almost like a little bit of endurance in some of it. And at a certain point, it's not going to do as much for muscular development. So we want to find a way to actually be able to weight the exercise like that. And I like an alternative just, and when you can get a good stretch, you could have some other kind of bench and put one of these pads in between two to be able to get that good stretch. You could have something where you're actually hanging freely in the air, and you're still going to be able to get a pretty good stretch. You don't have to, but these are little alternatives. So if you don't have access to the bench I'm using here, it's not that you don't have options, okay? And then for the bottom up, so my favorite for this is an exercise that some call a reverse squat. So it's going to target the hip flexors as well. Don't worry about that. It's just good. Most people have too weak hip flexors. Even if you feel it mostly in your hip flexors first, like it's going to catch up and you're going to be training your lower abs and hip flexors equally. But so the reverse squat, you take these kind of cuffs, you know, that you can attach to a cable, and you lie on your back and you pull your knees towards you. And this one is good because you can, you know, because you can do something like a hanging leg raise, like with tucked, like with the knee bent or with straight legs. But at a point, it's going to be very hard to like overload this exercise. You're going to be able to do so many reps. And something like this reverse squat, you can just increase weight in the cable machine, right? So that would be my favorite for that. Then for the side, you could do different side bend things, but in the hyperextensions, I've just been holding a weight, getting a good stretch on the side and contract up. And I think in the video I have available now, I'm using like the opposing hand, so I even twist a bit more. I like that. You get more of a twist. But it doesn't matter. You know, a lateral flexion is kind of enough, like just side bending without a twist is enough. So you can experiment with that. And the hyperextension, I just think it's nice because you can kind of, you know, use your feet, like get them in there so they're stuck and get good leverage like that. And you get a good stretch to the side, but you can just stand and hold something too. You might not get quite as good of a stretch on it, but just to see that I'm recommending 3 that I think are really good, but it's really more of a template that these kinds of exercises that target muscles in this way is what you're looking for. But then just treat it as any other exercise, really, you know, the 8 to 12 rep range-ish for hypertrophy. Of course, you can go higher, even up to 20, but probably not lower than 8 when you're training the abs in this way. But okay, we're talking programming. I used to have now this kind of weak point day when I got all these ab exercises in with some neck and calf work. But I notice now, especially from doing something like the safety squat bar squats, because I'm bulking now, I'm training harder, and especially my legs, because I've had an injury in the hip. It's getting better, so I can get back to training heavier. But this safety squat bar squat, it kind of wrecks my core. So now the day when I did the core work, I come into it, I'm already sore. So now I'm gonna be spreading them out more. So this is the thing with frequency and volume and intensity. You can have an ab day and get all the exercises in, but instead of having 3 exercises with 3 sets, for instance, that you do on 2 different workouts in a week, you can kind of, on all your other workouts, spread these out, like doing 1 or 2 of the exercises along with pulling work or with pushing work or with leg work, right? So with the programming, you could either have a pure ab day when you also address other weak points, but you can sprinkle these because, you know, now when I've been sore from the safety squat bar squats, for instance, I've just opted to do the reverse squat on the day after, and that works. But if I were to do this one when I'm holding the weight, for instance, and crunch it, that would just be too much. But okay, I think that's everything. The video got a little longer than I expected. But you know, I like to get into the philosophy and like try, not just this exercise to target. I want to explain why and how, the whole thing. Because that's the thing, guys. Many of these things are... why I call it holistic bodybuilding as well is not only because you use bodybuilding as a self-development tool. You're working on the body, but you're working on the entire you at the same time. And it's just so many, it just goes hand in hand, you know, many great analogies. You will develop yourself as a person in the way, same way you develop your strength and physique in the gym. And that, but also that having this holistic approach, like when I want to talk about training abs, I want to talk about everything around it. And of course, sometimes you can just drop little tidbits in a shorter format. But yeah, guys, please let me know what you thought about this video, if you like it, if you want to see more. I'm still thinking about doing this long presentation video of my entire training philosophy, go into all the details. But you know, I've been saying it and no one has really has expressed interest for it, so I need you guys to tell me, or because otherwise I'll assume that you don't care, you don't want to see it. So please let me know. Consider becoming a member or otherwise supporting the channel. I would appreciate it. You can reach out for coaching on Instagram or email me. It's all in the description below. I have different options, so just reach out and I'll tell you what goes. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It's a mindset, guys. Let's get abs. Peace.